Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up guys, Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another review. And for this review, Duncan Kyle and I have been checking out the new EP from El Paso metal quartet, Scattered Storm. The band's new EP, Oblivion, will be released on July 9th via Blood Blast. So, no real surprise to why I've added this one to the review pile. This band contains former and current members of the mighty Pissing Razors, Andrea Costa on vocals and Eddie Garcia on bass. That's right, bass. They are joined by Jay Arriaga from No Life on Earth, which I think we reviewed last year, their EP, and Years of Cold on drums and keys, and then Kevin Armstrong from Mondo Shawan and Section 6 on guitars. So we played one of the band's singles on one of our recent podcasts.
Kingslayer.
Yes, that's right. So you guys probably knew this would be coming your way for review in the future. I can't let anything involving Pissing Razors pass by me. It's just not in me at all. So here we have the first release from the band. They formed in 2019. And from the beginning, there was a very clear kind of understanding of every detail they wanted to incorporate in their sound. They wanted to create something that had groove and rhythm with a very specific tonality, but also bring together that with a layer of ambience and atmosphere. So, starting off musically, this, for me, it kind of leans more on the kind of progressive side of things. It does, as the band said, have a fairly constant kind of groove to it for most of the EP. But that's not to say this is just like a kind of progressive metal release. They do add in other little shades of stuff. You know, there are some kind of more kind of groovier, kind of groove metal stuff in there. There's some little bits of new metal. There's a little bit of kind of industrial kind of sounds in there as well. I think it's got quite a good balance of heaviness and almost like a kind of cyber infused atmosphere. Is the way I would kind of describe it. And a kind of Fear Factory way at times, but maybe not as clinical as Fear Factory. But I liked a lot of the riffs on this. As you know, I'm a big fan of anything that has a kind of groove to it. That is my wheelhouse. And these guys definitely have that as a kind of main staple on pretty much every track on this release. There's also a bit of Meshuggah going on there, especially on a track called Under the Fire. That intro riff with the kind of background, kind of eerie lead work is very, very Meshuggah, but they don't linger on it for the whole track. You know, there's other kind of ideas that are scattered throughout this track, but it definitely kind of held my attention. I also quite like the fact they switched up the guitars between 7-string and 8-string. I liked that kind of change in tone between the tracks. The 8-string in particular, I kind of really benefited those more kind of like Meshuggah-esque kind of moments on the EP. I quite enjoyed that. I enjoyed the addition of the keys and the kind of more atmospheric layers. I think they do add a bit of kind of light and shade to the tracks. I liked even how they kind of keep those elements running through the heavier, kind of groovier parts. It was a little different to what I was expected to hear from kind of bands like this, who would, you know, tend to kind of drop that as soon as the kind of heavy parts come in. You know, the keys and stuff seem to disappear, but they kind of kept that running. And I liked that. There was a track called Empty, which was it's a bit more kind of simple in the structure of the track, but the keys and the atmosphere on that track were great. I thought that it really kind of added this kind of huge feeling to the track, alongside some quite nice kind of uplifting melodies from Andrea Costa. My favourite track of the release was probably Necronomicon. I think it was the track that felt most complete in terms of the kind of overall sound of the band and where they went with it. I thought the transitions felt very natural between the kind of heavy parts and the melody. Some of the other tracks maybe lacked a little bit of cohesion at times, and I think that's probably my kind of main criticism here. I could tell that they haven't been together for a massive amount of time, even though they do come from other bands or good musicians, and they're not strangers to this type of thing. But there were moments on this that I felt like it was a little bit still in progress, if you know what I mean. They were maybe missing that kind of distinguishing characteristic that kind of sets them apart. I really liked the atmospheric layer to their sound. I felt like that was something they could keep developing. Musically, it does sound like kind of a lot of other bands, so I think it just needs a little bit of tweaking here and there. And I think that just comes through time. This is the first release. They've only been together since 2019. I can't imagine they've done a lot of rehearsing together down to with the pandemic and lockdown and stuff like that. So I think through a bit of time, I think their sound will probably start to round out a little bit. The kind of overall mix I thought was fine in terms of the guitars and drums and bass. I think they all sat fairly well balanced. I did feel like some of the synths were maybe a little too dominating in the mix. It kind of almost suppressed some of the other instruments. Not all the time, but there were maybe times where I maybe would have pulled them back just a little and let the other instruments kind of breathe a little bit more. But maybe that's what they were going for. They have said they wanted the kind of atmosphere to be a big part of their sound, so who knows. But for me, I felt they were maybe too loud at times. Duncan, what did you make of this one?
It's interesting. So the night that we are recording this, we have also recorded a release from a Japanese outfit. And one of the comments about that Japanese outfit was that when you sit down and listen to a Japanese metal band, you're getting a lot of everything flung at you, like all these different styles, all this different stuff, almost as like an amalgam altogether. And like my point with that music has always been that they're fairly well contained on each track. So the tracks might switch up, but on that track it's all there. And Scattered Storm is basically the American equivalent to that, just less refined. I felt personally this felt at times kind of disjointed to listen to in between tracks. The linking element very much being the synth work, which tied in all the tracks, but you go in 6 tracks on one hell of a journey from elements that are very groove metal driven, like bits of like Meshuggah-esque polyrhythms, and I don't even think it was polyrhythms, I just thought it was more the guitar tone more than anything else, and just that kind of the bring in. Then there was other bits that had elements of kind of almost like a new metal tinge that started to feed its way through. Bits where the melodies totally worked, other bits where the melodies to me didn't work. I would agree with you, and I'm a synth player. Bits where I was like, that sounds too loud. That atmosphere is now. It's like, to me, atmosphere is what's in the background. It's not what's in the foreground. Hence the word atmosphere. But it felt like it was almost dominating certain sections, which would make sense if the tones that they were playing were harsh to fit in with the rest, but the sims themselves that they'd chosen felt almost mismatched for how loud they were in the mix. That being said, though, there are huge elements of this release that I think they have kind of hit on something that no one else is doing. And that's really exciting. That idea of, like you mentioned before, the idea of kind of taking almost a kind of Fear Factory-esque kind of idea of bringing in the synth work or the samples or whatever they're doing there. We associate that with clinical precision because Fear Factory's done that, and these guys don't do that. What they do is they go for more of the groove, and a groove by its very nature is something that has to sound organic. It's not too clinical. It's not like quantized, like completely. So the fact that they brought that in is really kind of cool. I can't think of many bands that have done that. The fact that you've got like the kind of gruffer vocals that then switch into melodies as well. It works for a lot of this release. So once again, it's a really exciting element that I'm thinking. I'm struggling to think of bands that do anything like this, and that's exciting to hear because we're all long in the tooth. We've listened to lots of everything. We've heard everything. that you get to a point that the bands that start to incorporate elements that you've not heard before are the ones that, even if they don't do it perfectly, become exciting. There's that kind of trial and error sort of thing, and the fact you're saying that they've only formed recently, you know, this is them kind of piecing things together through what has been a difficult year for everyone, makes it all the more remarkable. I think there is huge potential in this band, like huge potential, to the point that I think if they just like tighten things up, maybe even tighten up the amount they're trying to do. I almost felt at times they were trying to do everything, and some of it works really, really well. Other parts kind of felt tagged on. Like I say, and it's not even that the vocals are out of key, they weren't out of key. There was a couple of bits that melodies come in, I was like, really, you're going to do a melody over that bit? To me, it just kind of felt like the wrong choice. But that's me. I wouldn't have done that. I'm not in the band, you know what I mean? So to them that makes sense. To me, it just kind of felt like that. No, naturally you should jump into this. You should do something heavier. So yeah, weirdly, this is the most kind of Asian sounding American band I've heard in a while, in that they mix fucking so much stuff here into their music. At their core they are still a groove band.
Yeah.
I mean that's in principle, you know, the element that links most of it together. Even when they start doing other bits, it always comes back to like a central. That's kind of almost the linchpin. No Fear Factory pun intended. That's kind of the linchpin of the band. Is that? And yeah, the synth work, the stuff they're doing with the atmospherics and the synth work in the background, is certainly predominant throughout the whole thing. It's just almost like they've put something out without maybe they've wanted to get something out without maybe that extra time to refine things. And I think that's all that's needed here. There's not a bad song here. It's just it needs refinement. It just needs to settle a little bit. It's that way where bands write songs and tour things, and by the time they actually go to write the album, the song's a little bit different. You know, they've changed the melody that they've done. Like an interlude sounds different because they've played that a couple of times and they're like, actually, this would sound better. That's kind of what this sounds like for me. It's like it's almost there, but it just needs a little bit more refinement. But yeah, I mean, the pedigree, the people that are involved with it, it doesn't surprise me. It sounds as good as it does, and they're doing something that instantly makes them sound different from a lot of what is going around just now. So I will wait with bated breath for not only that Piss and Razors album, which they keep teasing like motherfuckers, but also the Scatterstorm album, which I hope they release somewhere in the future.
Yeah. And Kyle, what do you think?
You know, I had I don't know, like a difficult time with this one because the songs are good and all that, and they're doing something different, like you said. But I mean, the production, it was crap. It was really bad. I mean, there's no quantizing and pitch correction, all that. You can hear that there's a lot of off notes, and it's all very organic, and I quite like that a lot. But it was like, it sounded like a demo from 2006, and it's like, did you do this yourselves and did you not know how to do it? Because they said in their little info thing that they really put a specific, you know, thought into every little thing, and I listened to it, I was like, it doesn't sound like you did. It sounds like you got like just a lot of stuff, like you said, the synths came in too loud, or they were dominating stuff, and some stuff should have been high passed a bit more, and there were like some clean vocals that came in far too loud on the left side, and I was like, whoa, okay, you didn't put enough thought into this. It needs refinement, just like you said. It needs a lot of refinement, even like not through just playing it live, because my band does that too. We write a song, we play it live for a year, we go back and shove it on our album, and it's way different when we began. So I agree with that, but I think they needed someone else from the outside to come in and say, you need to turn that down, high pass this, do some different production techniques to make it up to like standards of today. Even if like, because it was just like, so that's the biggest gripe I had with it. That like the production kept coming back to me. It was like, Jesus Christ, why would you do that? That synth is everywhere, you know. But they had. I love the fact that their bass player knows how to overplay and then underplay. Like I say, overplay not in a bad thing, but like he plays. There was this part on track 2 I loved this in the bass. It was absolutely fantastic. You don't hear that much in metal. It was almost a walking like it was almost a walking fucking bass line, and I was like, that's awesome. That's so good. You just never hear that in metal at all. It was amazing, and I really loved it.
That is, Kyle.
Big Eddie
What, he's a
Garcia.
fucking drummer. He's
Yeah.
a drummer, Kyle.
Yeah, of course. It was amazing. And I couldn't believe I was hearing it. I was like, whoa. But there's all these little bits like that, like on the keys or in the vocal even, or on the guitar. They just put all these little bits in there, and it really works really well. So I agree, they're doing something different, and no one sounds like these guys do. Their best song, I think, was Kingslayer. I think that one really showed off a lot of what they can do and how they can do it very well. I think they showed off more depth to the band on Empty. And I think that really, they took a different turn and they went a different way, slightly different way, and it showed how they were deeper than just the surface level sort of, we can do this groovy, heavy shit too, and add some synths to it. Another gripe I had was every song started the damn same. It was like slow synth or guitar interlude into heavy, and I was like, okay, there's a formula here, definitely. They changed the formula after that intro, but every intro was the same. And the last song really didn't do anything for me at all, not even a little bit. I was like, what the fuck is this? You've just given us all this crazy good synth groove metal, and now what? This is like the soundtrack to the worst game I've never played. And so it's just like, okay, it's a weird way to end. I know, like, the last track is always sort of, we could do something different with this one. We've shown you what we are. Let's do something different. I think if they left that off, maybe it would have been a stronger release. Or they added some more heavy to it or something. I don't know. It was a bit weird for me. I was like, okay, I get where you're going. I know you have a guy that does synth and electronic stuff. Maybe tell him to shut the fuck up once in a while, and you wouldn't have ended up here. But everything before that was great. But yeah, aside from the production and a few weird choices, I quite enjoyed it. I listened to it a few times. I'll go back to it, definitely. Maybe it'll grow on me a bit more, but especially the bass stuff blew me away. So a lot to love and some things to not love so much, but yeah, really did enjoy it overall.
Okay. So ratings for this new one from Scattered Storm. I'm kind of torn on this one. You know that this is the one that I've kind of struggled with this week.
I'm all out of face. No, is it not that sort of tone?
I'm like,
right.
No. Right.
Nothing's that sort of torn.
All right, just making sure.
I'm between two scores on this one. I feel like there's parts of this EP that sit probably about a 3.5, and then there's parts of this EP that sit about a 3, and I don't know which way to go on it. Really, I'm still struggling with the overall scoring of this.
Go with your heart.
I think my gut reaction was a 3.5 when I was listening to this. I think they have potential. I think there's something about them that's different. I think it just needs refinement. I think the mix is slightly off in certain places, and I think that there's a lot of styles going on here, but I do think they are all linked. I don't know if I'd go quite as far as there's the Japanese version or the American version of that Japanese band. I think that the styles that they are playing are still all linked together. There's no pop punk or power metal in here, but I think it just needs a little bit of refinement here and there, and the mix is just a little bit off. So I'm going to stick with my gut. I'm going to go 3.5.
Just to clarify, I didn't mean they are the American version of the band we reviewed. I mean they're the American version of Japanese metal, and that they're bringing a lot to the table on different songs. So just make sure I stress that one out there. That's certainly to me. There's a lot going on this. In a short period of time. It's 24 minutes, so you're getting a lot on.
Not
here.
quite as extreme as Japanese metal though. Like,
well,
they go from one
very few
end to
things
another.
are as extreme. That's what I'm saying. It's the American version of it. It's like American sushi. It's not as good as Japanese sushi. It's a kind of close approximation. You'll eat it, but you can taste the difference when you get the good shit. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I'm maybe less torn than you. My grade hasn't really changed on this one. This is a 3. I think there is huge potential here for this band to refine what they've got. In fact, all these songs, there's not a song, even Scattered Storms, which, I mean, I would play this video game, unlike Kyle, and have that played in the background. Even Scattered Storms has merit for me, and I think every single song here, all 6 of these, with a bit of work, a bit of time, re-recorded and re-released on an album, would sound fucking great, and it's an album I would totally listen to. But it feels rushed in parts. It feels a bit raw. There's specific choices in the mix which are a bit confusing. That I'm not sure why it was done. I don't know if that's that's been time pression or if that's just what they were going for. But they've got all the elements of a band that I would genuinely find really interesting and want to listen more to. I would describe this band the way I describe my masturbation technique: rough but enjoyable. It's a 3. It's a 3.
Okay. And Kyle.
Jesus, I can't get that image out of my head now. Just
rough
looking at
but
this,
enjoyable.
Fucking take it. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Like strangling an angry chicken.
Part smile, part grimace.
Oh, right. With that, I'm going to go 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. Nice. Okay. So this new one from Scattered Storm drops on July 9th on Blood Blast. I will put a link below to the band's Facebook page and to the pre-save link for the EP as well. Let us know what you think. If you have any opinions, if you've listened to any of the tracks they've released, or once you've heard the EP, happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is the review. Thanks for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.
Yeah!